Hunger is my best friend, a biological savior that's helped me do a lot more than just live. It's taken me to a cookie when I'm sad, to gulab jamun when I'm stressed, to Maggie and Uncle Chips when I can't sleep. It helps me cope. But when I meet endocrinologists as part of my job, and that would be a doctor who treats hormone related issues, which includes diabetes, a disease that's related to the insulin hormone in our body. But when I see them and they hear about my coping mechanisms, they say my type of hunger is killing me. It's not my friend, but my downfall. So I tried to break up with hunger. I read somewhere that because our lifestyles have evolved so fast, somewhere our brains have not processed the fact that food is no longer scarce. It's just a 10-minute app order away. So we still biologically believe we're out in the jungle. So if we see cherries, we'll eat them all quickly, um, lest the chimpanzee come and eat them all, or in my case, my husband. So I don't leave any cherries. I finish them all. So I tried to trick my brain into believing that food is not scarce in middle class urban Delhi. I put a loaf of bread and a slab of cheese in front of me, and I said very mindfully to myself, look, it's all for you. No one is taking it. You don't have to eat all of it. But after 10 minutes, the plate was empty and I ate all of it. Hunger is a lot trickier to do away with than I thought. It is the equivalent of the Instagram stalker we just can't get rid of. But modern medicine might just have given a shortcut-ish answer to us, a free pass out of the hell that is food lust, the new breed of super effective weight loss drugs. This is Sonali Acharji, and you are listening to Health Wealth, a podcast that wants to reaffirm your faith and enthusiasm about good health. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have answers to modern health's greatest worries. I don't know if sambar masala can cause cancer, why it is that it is 10,000 steps that keeps us alive, and I am as perplexed as you that mushroom coffee is the next best health drink. But I do have access to reliable experts who can guide us through the complexities of our well-being. The medicine semaglutide is our greatest hope today for tackling hunger and the obesity crisis. But this drug is not new. It was developed way back in 2012 by a Danish company called Novo Nordisk. It's just that it's been endorsed a whole lot more by celebrities who've used it, from Elon Musk to Oprah Winfrey. And you too must have heard of it by its brand name, Ozempic, which is so popular now that it's actually in shortage. And the company Novo Nordisk has become Europe's most valuable company just on the back of this one single ingredient. They sell it in three forms. Ozempic, which is approved for blood sugar control in diabetics, and it's taken as an injection. There is Wegovy, which is also an injection and approved for weight loss, and quite recently for heart health in those who are obese as well. And there's Rybelsus, which is an oral tablet approved for blood sugar control. Out of these three, Rybelsus is available in India, but even though it's meant for diabetes management, it too contains semaglutide and thus has this almost remarkable capacity to help you break up with hunger, particularly stress-caused hunger. But my question is it really that simple? Can we manufacture chemicals to trick our brain into thinking it doesn't need to eat without any side effects at all? And at a time when children as young as 5 want, an hourglass figure, it's really important to understand the nuances of weight loss medicine, because as effective as they may be, they might not be the magic pill that we're all waiting for. I have with me today Dr. Jasjeet Wasir, who is the director of the Division of Endocrinology and Diabetes at Medanta Hospital in Gurgaon. And he's going to help us navigate this world of medicine, hunger, sugar, and fat. Hello, Dr. Wasir.
A very good afternoon to you, Sonali, and everybody who's tuned in. I must appreciate your great insights into this very important issue. And
Yeah,
you started off with hunger, and I guess you got the ball rolling in the perfect direction. Let's see how we can demystify the
yeah,
drugs, weight loss, hunger, and everything together. And I'm very
yeah.
grateful for your kind invitation.
Thank you so much. Um, I one of the reasons I wanted an endocrinologist, especially, is the fact that in India, not many people know this, but ribelsis is just approved to be prescribed either by a doctor like you or by an internal medicine specialist. So I wanted to know, since it's come and I think it launched a couple of years ago, have you seen an increase in demand for it?
Uh, Amazingly large, and it's related to two things. One, so it's been about 3 years since the drug was introduced. Being at Medanta, we have the good fortune of using the newer medications much earlier and much aggressively for the clinical benefit of our patients. And so when you start with a new drug, all you have is robust data from randomized controlled trial data, trials in saying that, okay, yes, this drug works in providing a durable, effective sugar control, a very good weight loss, benefit on blood pressure, benefit on lipids, heart, liver, kidney, and brain protection. That's what
Wow.
we know. And then it comes to, because most of these trials have a minority representation of our own population. So we start off slow and start using the drugs in situations because we know there is a definite hunger suppressive effect.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
honestly, the first patient where I started off the drug way
Mm-hmm.
back 3 years
Mm-hmm.
were the ones in whom I just asked, grade your appetite from 0 to 10, where 0 is a very poor appetite,
Mm-hmm.
and 10 would amount to anytime, anything, anywhere, the diet. And they were, all of them had diabetes and coexisting obesity, oblique abdominal obesity, and multiple risk factors.
Mm-hmm.
They were the patients in whom I knew the drug is going to give us the benefit we're looking for. And that's the starting point. And over a period of time, we have refined our skills of using this drug for our
Mm-hmm.
own patients.
Mm-hmm.
Like the drug insert would say, use this dose at for this interval. It's very, very different for our population. Uh, Somewhere down the line, probably the ethnic and the genetic makeup makes us better responsive or differentially responsive to a lot of these drugs,
Mm-hmm.
including semaglutide. So it's been a great journey. Coming to your question,
Yeah.
that because of the clinical benefits, the drug is being prescribed so much now because we, all of us together, have
Mm-hmm.
got amazingly large experience of clinical benefits, as I enumerated earlier with this drug.
Right. I know it's part of a class of drugs, with various different molecules being discovered in it. It's called GLP-1 agonists. Now, to me, as a common person, it sounds like some sort of computer algorithm. What is it exactly?
So it's something. It's a hormone. It's a gut-derived hormone which is produced naturally in the human body, and it plays a major role in glucose homeostasis. Homeostasis means maintaining a balance of blood glucose, has a major role to play in the appetite regulation. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the two basic things we work on, and the receptors for this drug are available, are there all over the body.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if a receptor is present, that means that particular molecule, oblique hormone, would be having some effect in these areas. So this naturally producing hormone, the body, if there is anything perfect on earth or in this universe, is the human body. It maintains a perfect balance. Even
Yeah.
though somebody says that they have diabetes or any other disease, uh, still the way the body is functioning is the perfection. The microscopic or cellular
Mm.
level of control is perfect in the human body.
Yeah.
So this hormone is produced and has an extremely short half-life. We know
Mm-hmm.
the clinical benefits of the drug, sugar control, appetite control, etc., etc.,
Mm-hmm.
but the half-life is very less. Coming to the diabetes scenario, what happens is there is ineffective or there is decreased production of GLP-1.
Mm-hmm.
So the available GLP-1, that's one of the pathophysiological defects causing diabetes. And in itself has a very short half-life. The body will cleave and break it down to maintain the perfect milieu for sustenance.
Right.
So taking a lead from there, there were two strategies employed here. One
Mm-hmm.
is to block the enzyme which breaks it down, which is another group of medicines belonging to the incretin drugs. So either you prevent breakdown of the endogenously produced GLP-1, which in a patient with diabetes would be limited in the production. The other end, the scientists thought, what if I give the patients supraphysiological levels of GLP-1, but the body is going to break it down? So then the chemical modulation of the amino acid chains and
Mm-hmm.
other changes led to these molecules which are resistant to breakdown by the body's own enzymes, increasing the life of the molecule in the body. And that's where we get all the clinical benefits.
Yeah. You know what I find very interesting is that in order to manage diabetes, these researchers looked at ways to manage weight loss and hunger first. Why is that important? Why should fat loss and weight loss have any bearing on our blood sugar control?
So I take liberties of correcting you here
Mm-hmm.
in that it's only now that we have a solution for hunger and appetite. Do we really understand? If
Mm-hmm.
we go back in the textbooks of diabetes,
Yeah, there were
you would
only
find
three
this
reasons. Yeah.
the starting point
Yeah.
being insulin resistance,
Mm.
and the phenotype or the expression, physical
Mm.
expression of that is what we define as obesity or abdominal obesity or visceral
Mm.
obesity.
Mm.
So in the simplest forms, with a genetic or a ethnic background and an environmental insult, does diabetes, insulin resistance, all in a cyclic pattern go on to the manifest disease of diabetes? So it's not that we didn't know it. Now we have a solution for that, and
Mm-hmm.
we hear much more about it.
Mm-hmm.
And very easily, that obesity is the starting place for numerous non communicable diseases.
Mm-hmm.
It's associated with over 225 health risks or complications,
Mm-hmm.
which we can easily define as either metabolic, like diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, fatty liver, PCOD, mechanical, knee pain, back pain, sleep apnea, etc. Mental aspects like anxiety, depression, self-esteem, etc., and monetary. It's a sum total of these things. So that's the one-way traffic where the things are going, where obesity or excess weight is not addressed. But once you start addressing obesity right at the beginning, you mentioned that the young children, etc., are all
Yeah.
becoming
Yeah.
obesity.
Yeah.
So the greatest wellness of the population will be achieved when we start early. And the
Mm-hmm.
starting point can very well be obesity management. That's
Yeah.
how you can make a U-turn. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where prevention of diseases and
Mm-hmm.
wellness lies.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
way I look at it. Start
Yeah.
early, let a disease not happen.
Mm.
And we know the path. Obesity, whether it's genetic or
Mm-hmm.
environmental, insulin resistance, diabetes. So logic says I intervene right at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning where obesity is present and
Mm.
prevent progression to diabetes.
So, when I first heard about this drug and I was talking to doctors, and as with any new medicine, you ask, are there side effects? And I was largely told that there are some, and they're gastric in nature mostly. And when you hear that, it doesn't sound very alarming. You just hear gastric issues, and you're like, okay, must be something. But there's this book called The Magic Pill, and it's by an author called Johan Hari. And he's taken Ozempic, and he was obese, and he describes his own experiences with these side effects. And when you hear them experientially, they sound a lot more worrisome. There is uncontrollable belching, coughing up bile, his elevated heart rate, even if you're just lying down in bed, and anxiety every time you increase the dosage. Um, Yet somewhere, people are taking the side effects because the benefits seem a lot more. But is this it? Is this the maximum harm that these drugs can do, or are there something in the long term that we probably are missing right now?
So the answer to your question lies in a little bit in being wise while prescribing these group of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Simply to start off with a point is identifying uh, people, oblique patients who are likely to benefit the most.
Mm-hmm.
See, in medicine, uh, what I practice is keep my patients safe, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing I do should cause any potential harm or actual harm to our patients. So that's the podium on which we all are standing and practicing. Uh, Now, once you've chosen the patient well, you have kind of determined, yes, the benefits are going to be there. Side effects, now starting with what we are discussing, the potential side effects,
Mm-hmm.
there are four patient categories in which the drug should never be used.
Mm-hmm.
Those one who've had a past history of pancreatitis, those who have a history of gallbladder stones or active gallbladder stones. Third, those who have advanced eye disease because of diabetes. And fourth, those who have thyroid cancers. So this you have more or less, and gastroparesis
Mm-hmm.
also.
Mm-hmm.
So these five categories, you have ruled out patients in whom harm can happen.
Right.
And then coming to the side effect profile, what I have learned over these 3 years, upfront explaining the patients about the potential side effects,
Mm-hmm.
no, not amplifying them or not saying that you won't have any side effects, taking a middle path goes a long distance in that. The
Mm-hmm.
most important of these, when we started using the drug, within a few days to a few weeks, the patient or the family would come running back to us and say that they have lost their appetite completely.
Yeah.
See, culturally,
Mm-hmm.
appetite is akin to health.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose your appetite, you are unhealthy. That's how we perceive hunger and appetite.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I would tell all my patients, that especially the ones who've got a very happy appetite, that
Mm-hmm.
please don't worry, you're going to lose your appetite with this drug. And if you lose your appetite, that means the drug is working well.
Mm-hmm.
That's worked wonders for everybody in understanding the drug better in
Yeah.
their experience. Some amount of nausea, vomiting uh, does happen. It becomes all right over a period of time. Their appetite keeps on staying suppressed. So,
Mm.
what again, experience based, what we've learned is to use different doses,
Mm-hmm.
keeping in mind the tolerability of the drug and being flexible in prescribing the drug to ensure the happy journey for our patient. One side effect of this drug are loose motions. Once a patient develops them, they will never be able to tolerate the drug in the
Ah,
future. So
okay.
that's the only side effect in my practice
Hmm.
I found which you can't circumvent.
Yeah.
That's the
And
only side effect.
but would it have a long-term effect on our gut flora, or end up harming our digestion in the long term? Or it's
We
just too early to tell?
we really don't have an
Mm,
answer. So
mm,
to get an answer, you need science. You need to
mm,
see
mm,
what the present gut flora is,
mm,
practically very difficult to know, and
mm,
what would be the changes in the gut
mm,
flora on long term exposure.
mm-hmm,
But you changing appetite, what the take home here would be, I don't have an answer for that,
Mm-hmm.
but adopting healthy lifestyles,
Yeah.
having a good natural food would be the way forward.
Mm-hmm.
Consuming yogurt is a very simple thing,
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
of probiotics, and that
Yeah.
would ensure a good gut flora.
Right.
Taking soluble fibers, all these things will help
Right.
grow the natural flora,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective whether the drug is there or not.
Got it. You've been mentioning appetite and hunger on and off as well, and I started this with that, and actually that's the bit that I find most interesting because the real culprit of all of this, interestingly, seems to be the food that we've been eating. There's been a lot of research that's shown that ultra processed food and the chemicals that go into it end up harming how satiated we are with food. It also leads to this sort of never ending cycle of never being full enough. You see a picture of a pizza, you immediately want it because you know what it tastes like. You can almost, you start salivating for it. So it's a very potent mix of cravings and just this feeling that you're never satiated enough. And now we need this medicine to give us the feeling of satiety, which is a very ironical thing. Tell me, can you explain a little bit more about how is this hunger playing out? And is there a way that one can curb it naturally without the need for medicine?
That's actually a $1 billion question.
Mm,
And the day we get that answer, we won't need any drugs. So the thing is, you started off mentioning very well in examples of evolutionary changes
mhm,
in humans, which are being carried out now. So at that time, there was scarcity of nutrition, and wherever nutrition would be found, it would be consumed. So the human brain, oblique, the one which exists above the brain, the human mind, has been tuned for consumption of calorie dense foods.
mhm,
That's in the simplest way I look at, is why we have an appetite for these things and not for things which are sour.
mhm, mhm.
Now we live in an age of plenty where everything is available. We don't have to move out from our workplace or from our homes to get the most fulfilling kind of foods, like
Yeah,
food for the soul, which makes you
yeah,
feel happy,
yeah,
gives you the pleasure of eating.
yeah.
Now this opens up a universe of neurohormonal connections
Mhm,
in the which run in the brain. Just giving an example, we've heard
mhm,
about stress eaters, we've heard about emotional eating, we've heard about binge eating. Now, it's not as simple as a physical process that they do. There are triggers to that.
mm.
And see, the environment around us is full of those triggers, including the smell of food, the sight of food, and even the thought of
The
food
thought of food, yes.
generates those hormones which drive seeking behavior. And once you get it in your mind, I have to have a burger, come what may, you will seek and
Mm,
ensure you eat it. Now, this comes in a domain of what we call as hedonic eating or
mhm,
pleasure eating. It's driven by a complete set of different hormones away from the natural eating, the demand of the body for sustenance, or the cry of the cell that I need nutrition, which is what we call as homeostatic eating. In homeostatic, so when you're really hungry, you've had your breakfast at 8 and it's like 3 o'clock, you will feel that kind of queasy feeling in the tummy, and whatever comes in front of you, dal, roti, sabji, dahi, you will
mhm,
feel the happiest in consuming that.
mhm,
So 3:30 you finished your lunch and you've had a very tough day, fine, and you're like mentally fatigued. At 5:36, when the time comes, you're at the peak of your tiredness. Suddenly you start visualizing happy foods or junk foods or fast foods. You see the picture in your mind, And a very simple thing which has worked wonders for my patients is that when you're picturizing a food in your mind, your body does not need it. Just a simple understanding. So
Yeah.
it's a reflection. So whenever we discuss topics like this, the question
Mm-hmm.
asked to me, how do we differentiate it's a
Mm-hmm.
natural hunger or a hedonic hunger?
Yeah. Yeah.
I simply say, if you can picturize a food in your mind, in the next 10 times it happens, compare where what the picture said. Was
Mm-hmm.
it just I'm feeling hungry, or was it I am hungry for a burger or a pizza? You'll need know the difference. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
won't be able to act on that, but at least you know that there is something different happening.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to the fact, can we without drugs take care of that? Well, there are very intensive cognitive behavioral therapies which can help rewire the mind to take cues from these particular stimuli, but then
Mm-hmm.
it's a painstaking effort to be made. And
Yeah.
that's where you rightly said it's a kind of a shortcut that it just clips the emotions and the hunger and the satiety centers where you can just be concentrate on taking good nutrition, and that pleasure eating part is kind of taken care of.
Yeah. And but once you've been having a lot of junk food, and by junk now I started including anything that's not made in my own kitchen. Unfortunately, it seems to have come to that. I can't trust anything that I haven't seen being made by my own eyes. After a point, it gets very, you do need some amount of willpower to say no. It's like this, it's just a force. And especially with all the stress that's happening, with life and love and the future, I mean, everything is stressful today. Even the monsoon coming late stresses you out. It's very difficult to control it. And something which started to work for me, and I got this from how people tend to quit smoking, is that you remember how bad it made you feel. You remember the really that sick feeling that you get when you've eaten too much. That, and as well as it really helped me to know what fat does to my body. And I think that's something which, we when we think we're obese, we feel bad because we're not the right shape. We're not really understanding internally what fat cells are doing to our mechanism. So could you explain a little bit, particularly abdominal obesity, which is very common in India? What does that do to our organs and to our cells and to our well-being to have that kind of fat inside of us?
So again, I must congratulate you on your insights.
Mhm.
And it seems that you've had a great journey of learning
Mhm.
and being very observant. So what you
Mhm.
just talked about relationship with food
Mhm.
is exactly what I mentioned is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mhm.
Like the how you felt when you ate something, how you felt when something happened are basically the things which cognitive behavioral therapy empowers somebody to do and
Mhm.
then apply it again and again to make it a behavior. Again, like all organs of the body, the brain is also so beautiful. You can change your habits.
Mhm.
It's never like that it is set, and that's what we call as neuroplasticity.
Mhm.
Your emotions and all everything is going in a particular circuit which leads to the neurohormonal changes.
Yeah.
With honest efforts and guidance, you can change those circuits, and that's what neuroplasticity is. And excellent studies have shown how the neurons connecting to each other change the
Mhm.
way you change your thinking
Yeah.
with self-help or with help of others who've gone through that process. So that's one thing I really appreciate about your insights into
Mhm.
into this particular
Mhm.
hunger and appetite.
Yeah.
Coming to the second part of your question is
Mm.
about abdominal obesity. So again, nature has programmed the human body to have fat. Fat is not just a cushion, it is a endocrine organ, it is a hormone, it produces a lot of hormones. So
Mhm.
it is an organ, it is not just a cushion. So genetic, ethnic predisposition, you have fat in different areas. Now, what happens because of the reasons where weight gain is happening? Fat, when present in the unnatural areas.
Mm-hmm.
So I use it in inverted commas, unnatural areas, or the ectopic areas becomes
Mm-hmm.
metabolically extremely volatile. It starts producing excess of these hormones, inflammation driving molecules, which then culminate into diseases like diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease,
Mm-hmm.
and or their further complication. So it's that inflammation fat being present inside the abdomen, in the liver, in the muscle, or in the heart. It is not supposed to be there. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
very, very volatile.
Mm-hmm.
And once you lose weight, you will not just lose fat in the subcutaneous or the external, the
Mm-hmm.
internal fat also reduces. And that's where possibly the benefits are maximized on prevention of diseases.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes I used to be this person who used to hear doctors say it all the time, lose weight, obesity is bad. And I used to be like, you know what, they're just saying it. Well, it's okay, you know, I can be a little fat, it's all right. And then one day I thought, you know, let me see for myself if there's any truth to what obesity does. And in a country like India, where there's people around you all the time, it's very easy to do a small survey of your own. So I was in a hospital room, and I was in the waiting room waiting for the doctor, and I was a little bored. Look around, and I see there are about 20 people who have a lot of abdominal fat. So I just asked them, I was like, what are you here for? Like, what issue do you have? I didn't ask all 20, but I asked a good 10 of them. And all of them had NCDs, and all of them, the doctor had said, lose weight. So it really is one of the starting foundations of all the diseases that we are facing today, including two people who had cancer, whose doctor had said that, you know, you should lose weight also.
You're,
It's not just something that we're being told.
you're absolutely right. And see, this brings out a very important issue about excess weight or obesity or whatever we may call it, is that every individual would look at it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there would be a generation of people looking at weight loss for vanity purposes. Then your experience in the outpatient of a doctor, you talk about health issues. As a healthcare giver, after these many years of experience and practice in the area of bariatric medicine, I keep my mind totally open in accepting. So if somebody comes to me and says that I want to lose weight for vanity, we're not talking about drugs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is very important.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't be a take home message that drugs for vanity. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody says, I want to lose for vanity, I would always respect it. See, you lose weight by the right ways, you will
Mm-hmm.
get all the benefits. You'll get the metabolic, mechanical, mental, and monetary benefits. It really does not make a difference where I have to say health and you have to say vanity. So we both are going tangentially opposite. How can we work together in that? If you say health, I say health, we're working together. You say vanity, I say vanity. We use only approved treatments there. We are very well aligned. And then we do the risk profiling and see which strategy will work best for you, which
Mm-hmm.
may or may not include drugs, is the right way forward where we work together and move together.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, anything that is so unseen and complex like hunger, it's very difficult for a common person to understand. So thank you so much for having come today and explained it so beautifully to us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We did a previous episode as well on diabetes where we looked at what this condition can do to the quality of your life. So even if you think that modern medicine will save you and keep you alive, you will be running on much less and you won't be able to fulfill your full potential. It is difficult in the short run to go for that walk after a very long meeting or to read a food label when you're rushing, to control your indulgences. But I think the body also starts to adapt to it eventually. The day will come when you find that going for that walk is easy, it's natural, you won't be able to sleep without it. And you'll start finding that cake that you really needed, you'll start finding it to be too sweet. I mean, it's a bit weird because for a quarter of my life, I thought the answer to all my stress lay in sugar. And today I'm realizing that no, the answer to my stress is me. It's not sugar that has my back, it's me. And I'm still waiting for the day when more people around me will be able to have that realization, because it's that first step to great health. I'd love to hear about your experiences with hunger, health, and self control. You can write to us at pods@indiatoday.com. Or if you are like me and enjoy sending that odd SMS and remembering the days when cartoons were less shrill and pastries had names you could pronounce, then you can also message us on 8588966996. And we're also available on a social media channel of your choice: X, Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp channels.